Are you ready, worship leader, to grow in confidence, connection, and clarity? Join me, Brandon Dempsey, for a free workshop on Zoom later this summer that will help equip you with real tools from better building set lists to leading powerful transitions and strengthening your relationship with your pastor and team. Don't miss this chance to lead with grace, purpose, and skill. Stay tuned to this podcast and WTT socials like Facebook and Instagram to find the sign-up dates when they drop. Let's get to today's podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Let's be clear. Rehearsal time is not practice time. Practice is what you do before rehearsal. Then you rehearse what you've practiced. Hey, worship leaders, welcome back to another episode of The Green Room. I'm Brandon Dempsey, and let's go ahead and close the door and slide on into the room, and let's have a chat about the things that matter most for your rehearsal, for your environment in leading worship. So, it's been a while. I've taken some time off to have vacation with my family and do some things that, kind of break up the monotony. I mean, let's face it, as leaders of worship, it is a lot of work to be on all the time each week. And often we carry that same weight into Sunday mornings and we don't think so. We don't think that maybe rehearsal is a pain, or we don't want to think it. But the problem is the preparation. It's the feeling that we're already behind. What's real preparation? That happens on Tuesday mornings in prayer. It happens on Thursday nights after work. It happens during the week, before you set out the chord charts, before you arrange your music, before the first downbeat hits. There is a skill in our development. There is a spiritual need in our hearts, and both need to be prepared. So, I wrote this article. You can find it on our Substack page. Yes, we do have a Substack page, Worship Team Training. Please look it up and follow. And I write daily on these topics of rehearsal, spiritual preparation, all this stuff. And you can find the same sliver of articles, maybe the full or half, on our Facebook page and Instagram. But to get right back to the topic, rehearsal and let's say more preparation seems to be the afterthought. Now, like you, worship team members, I know there's a lot going on, but when we step into a room and we decide that this is the first time that we're actually going to touch the music, well, we're not only doing a disservice to ourselves within our own playing, but we're also doing a disservice to our team. Why? Because your team is relying on you to not only know your part, but to, let's say, know their part. Because it's important. If I'm a keyboard player, I want to know the part that the guitarist is playing. I don't want to rely on just the music making and the band's taking care of it, or if I have a track going on behind me. I want to make sure that as a keyboardist, I'm relating to what the guitar player is doing with every note, with every chord, every texture dynamic that I may play. Why is that important? Because you, in a rehearsal setting, have to rehearse the sound of the instruments, the sound of the team, the sound of the room. So how do we get there? Well, if you're learning the music for the very first time when you step in, you're not going to attain all those other aspects of rehearsal because you're too busy on what you don't know in the music. This is why it's so critical that you practice and develop your skill and your heart at home. Look, you've heard your pastor say to read your Bible. You've heard your pastor say to pray. You've heard your pastor to encourage you of taking steps within your spiritual growth so that you can be the kind of worshiper that God is seeking. Well, how much more so is it that we take the talents that God's given us and we become better stewards of those gifts by developing them outside of our musical setting, which means our home. Yeah, I know. I don't have time either. I get it. And sometimes working through the car and listening to the music is the only time that I have. However, if you find yourself too busy where you're not able to practice at all because other concerns are taking care of your attention in life, then I'm just going to be bold and to say, maybe being on the worship team right now is just not your season. Maybe you need to get to that next season where you can adapt and create time and space where you can work on your musical development. However, if you're saying, yeah, Brandon, I can do maybe 10 minutes a day. Did you know that 10 minutes a day is actually all you need? If you can factor in 10 minutes a day, think about this for a second. How many days in the work week? There's 5. There's almost an hour of rehearsal time that you prepared for. By 50 minutes, 55 minutes that you practiced, that is long enough. In fact, did you know that the pros encourage this, just to do 10 or 15 minutes a day? Why? Because there's a few things at hand. There's muscle memory. There's also the routine of each day. There's also the refreshment that your eyes and ears experience each time when you open up the music and you're able to draw on yesterday's practice. And then here's a good thing too. If you miss a day, because provided you will, then at least the next day you can catch up and it doesn't feel like 5 days have gone during the week and you've never looked at your music. You know, and when worship leaders talk about how worship teams don't worship, there is a reason, and I'll just say it. Maybe the reason why worship teams don't worship is because I know if I haven't looked at my music and I haven't prepared, I'm not going to worship. Why? Because the pressure is on. Sunday morning is here. The worship leader and music director have given me the orders and I must play music. And if I don't know what I'm doing, you bet I'm not going to worship because I'm hardly going to even learn how to play my music. So you can catch this article that I wrote. It's called How to Run Rehearsals So They Don't Run You. That's found on Substack. Now, with that in mind, as I wrote that this week, we got a pretty large response. And that's pretty cool because rehearsal is a big topic that everybody struggles with. In fact, I posted a question on, if you follow the Worship Leaders Plus page on Facebook groups, and you can find it. My question was, what's the one thing you wish your worship team understood better? So we had about 69 comments, and some were funny, some were serious, but the one thing that I saw that caught my attention was said by this one person on the site, and she wrote, practice is done at home. Rehearsal is done right before service. I love it. You realize there was 45 people who liked and loved that statement. 45 people out of the 69 who responded to this post said, yes, I agree. Practice is done at home. It's like this. We don't like flossing, right? At least we brush our teeth. Now, I used to be the lone holdout where I would not floss my teeth and I would wait, like everybody else, wait until my next cleaning. And oh man, if I just floss maybe 3 days ahead of time, the doctor will say I'm good. But no, when I was in the dentist chair, he actually came back and said, yeah, well, Dempsey, you got about 3 cavities. Now, that's not his fault. It's my fault because I didn't take the time to floss. So one phrase that stuck with me that he said to me, Brandon, you need to floss your teeth like you wash your hair every day. And I thought, wow, I want to take him up on that challenge. Sure enough, the next year, I flossed every day. And did you know this happened just this past week where I went to the dentist and I have 0 cavities. And there was, okay, look, I know this is going on a tangent, okay? I realize that. What does this have to do with worship? Because of the fact that if you practice each day, it's like flossing your teeth. You don't want to wait to the very end where you have craters in your teeth and you can't chew anymore because now the dentist tells you that you have to do surgery on your gum, root canal. I mean, that's painful. Just as painful when you're the keyboard or guitar player and you don't know your part. And especially if the worship leader calls you out and says, hey, Brandon, can you play that one passage for us on the bridge? And if I don't know what I'm doing, how embarrassing is that? So I say to you, please rehearse at home. Rehearse at home. Rehearse to practice time. Maybe you need to look at it that way. Maybe the word practice fires off a bad connotation, or things that you remembered in school that you didn't like your band director or choir teacher telling you to do this every day, and maybe it formed a bad memory for you. Well, you got to learn to get past that. I know those things have happened, but maybe contextualize it in a new way. Maybe just say, hey, this is going to be my development time. Hey, maybe this is going to be my refresher time. Spend it however you want. And maybe change the environment. Maybe instead of practicing in the same room, maybe go somewhere else. Maybe practice outside. We have to do things to keep our rehearsal and practice time interesting. I hope that this inspires you and gives you new ideas, and also to help you understand that you're not alone. We all go through this. But you need to remember this, that you're not just a musician. You're not just a singer. You are a leader of worship. You are important on the team, and you must do that work because your church is relying on you to lead them in heartfelt worship. So explore the tools that are out there. Be encouraged as you go back out to lead, and maybe tonight you're going to rehearsal, maybe it's tomorrow, and it could be Sunday. So what are you going to do with what you've heard today to be encouraged to go back out there and to know that you can do this? Why? Because you are God's modern day Levites. And with that comes responsibility and comes with great joy. Because as you develop as a musician, it's like working on your spiritual growth. Joy comes from that. And how good it is to share that with our brothers and sisters in worship and lead people in congregational response. That's what it's about. Hey, friends, thanks again for joining me here in the green room. Let's go ahead and open the door and go back out to the places where God's called us to serve. Thanks for being here with me. And I look forward to seeing you back here again on the Worship Team Training Podcast. See ya. Hey guys, thanks again for listening to this podcast and downloading this episode. I want to invite you to get our free Worship Team Training devotional. These are the writings I put out on Bible.com, YouVersion, and we've had thousands upon thousands of both English and Spanish that listen, they download them. So we invite you to do the same. Just head on over to worshipteamtraining.com/enews or find the newsletter link on the top right corner of the website, worshipteamtraining.com. Thanks so much, and see you on the next episode.